When we observe lessons now, that's the question I ask. I had a great example the other day. Chris Hughes, great teacher at our school. I said to him, look Chris, I don't need to come and observe you for performance management to know that you're a good teacher. I know you are. Well, how would you like me to observe you? And she said, well, what I'm really interested in, when I did my master's degree, I was looking at whether students in my class, she teaches modern languages, could make up their own language rather than just parrot back to me the language that I give them. So what I'd really like to do is have two students in the class. We'll use Iris, we'll put microphones around their necks and we'll film just those two, and I can teach the lesson and you'll see, we'll hear the conversations they're having about the language and whether they reproduce language and make their own or whether it just parrot me back. So when she went up to set it up, Adam, our man, comes in, our ICT man, he says, no, you can't put those on there, you've got to wear a microphone, you've got to have a microphone on the desk. And she said, I was so unsure. I said, okay, Adam, if that's what you're going to do, that's what you've got to do. So then secondly, I kicked the camera 30 seconds in, and instead of focusing on those two, focused on half the class. So it was completely wrong. However, if you'd have asked me about that Year 8 group, I'd have said they're the most switched on, most hard-working group. I watched that half a class, I'd set them a task for 5 minutes, they'd finish it in one, and for 4 minutes they were just chatting about nothing. She said, I learned loads about my teaching, I can't believe it. She said, if you'd asked me, do I use the target language, I'd have said 99% of the time. She said, 9% of the time, I can't believe it. So she actually then went away to work on her practice. It's amazing. So that's the question we ask. Now, I'm lucky we're probably in a school where we're worried about behaviour as much as worrying about actually improving at the margins of your practice. So we have Iris, and this isn't an Iris advert, but I think Iris has transformed what's going on. I think if you're doing observations without video, it's really hard when you're talking about coaching afterwards. You're talking about two different versions of reality, right? And there's been times where I said, well, you did say that because I actually wrote it down, I've got it in inverted commas, when people will deny that was the language they used. So our coaching has improved massively since we've used video. And the thing is, you can only use video, as Tom said earlier, if you take away the grading and the judgment thing, because it's a complete nonsense. Take that away, and you make lesson observations development. And what I've got for you is, I think about 3 examples of how I've used Iris to improve teaching, my own teaching and others. Some of you might have seen this piece on the web, but this is a funny bit. This is where I realised I'm scary enough as it is because I'm the head teacher, it's tricky teaching, even when I teach sixth form. This is why I asked Ryan in the front row, right? Ryan in the front row, I know he's the weakest in the group, but I still asked him like that. Like that. You watch this, it's shocking, it makes me cringe. And I held in the silence for 2 minutes while he squirmed away. What's really funny about this piece of video is that someone said to me, one of my colleagues said to me, what I couldn't believe about it, John, was that Harry in the back row was texting. And I didn't bloody notice it. And Harry over there texts, and the girl next to him has a look at what he's texting. Right, see if you can, I might fast forward it before we get there. But it's amazing. And it really, really made me work on my practice at the margins. The sound isn't brilliant.
What short run, long run question could you ask about supply, Ryan?
Shooting you. Then I'm just doing it. So enjoying the silence. But Harry's at the back. There he's just getting phone out now. He's having a right text. He's chatting, showing the text there. And I didn't even notice that till someone else told me. And it goes on like that for some time, and Ryan squirms and squirms and squirms and squirms. So I realised 2 things. One about my gesture, and also one about my tone of voice.
Where we can't provide
it goes on, right? So, what you see in this next one is me working really hard. And I've really taken some time and I've practiced about what I do with my hands and what I do with my tone of voice. Because what it was doing was getting in the way of learning, because the culture I was creating in the classroom wasn't conducive to students feeling confident to get engaged. So I'd set this one up, and we were looking at, I think it was a moment where I was teaching economics A level. I think it was where the interest rate, the inflation rate was lower for the first time for years and years than wage increases. So felt for the first time the coalition could say people are getting richer, right? So there was a sense we were coming out of the recession. So I'd asked several people, I'd asked them to work in small groups, and what had the recession been like for you? And this was homeowners, and I'm asking a question over there. Look what I'm consciously doing with my hands, and I tell you, it's really hard work.
Okay. Let's go to mortgage players. How's life been for you, mortgage players? Can you just listen, Jake? How's life been for you, mortgage players? Pretty good. Why?
That has taken so much effort. I'm sitting down, I'm towering over Ryan.
Sometimes it's been okay with you. Good. So what's the rate of repossession?
But that's the level, I think, when you're at a certain level in schools, that's the level of practice you should be developing, right? Because I think the Q&A I had in that lesson, where I thought really hard about it, was so much better than the Q&A you saw in the first video.
Previous recession.
The last one I want to show you, one of the things we've been doing in school is developing growth mindset. And one of the things we've been working really hard on is the language of growth mindset. So to fill you in, it's a bit of work from Carol Dweck about kind of people's mental attitude to their work and their study. And one of the things we're working really hard on is the language of praise. Because it's really easy to praise outcome and not praise effort. And when you praise outcome, people don't really then work because they think they've done it. I have a boy in year 8, and he's always been a phenomenally good mathematician, mental mathematician. I remember with his elder brother Joe, Joe was in year 9, I think, and Ollie was in year 4, and Joe shouted out to me, "Dad, what's 3/7 of 35? And Ollie shouted out, without missing a beat, 15. And me and Joe looked at each other and went, blimey. So he's always been very good at maths, and I've told him that relentlessly. And he doesn't work at all at maths anymore. He's given up. He doesn't think he has to because he thinks he's very good at it. So until I read Dweck, I didn't kind of think hard enough about the language of praise. And so Joe and Ollie now get no well done, that's great. They get, you must have worked really hard at that. Continue working really hard. So kind of it's changed even the way I work. I think about my own kids. But the language of praise is really important. And this is watch this video. Watch this bit. It's a maths teacher. I've got his permission because he wanted me to look at his language of praise. So he filmed it, dumped the file in my home folder. We chatted about it, and I just let him watch it himself. And he was just overcome with disappointment at the language he uses. He set a task to work in groups of doing the challenge question. And this little lad goes up to him here to show him how well they've done the challenge question.
Aaron, any one of the three of you could explain it to me, okay? So, I'm not sure where Aaron's getting 18 from on that one. Can you just have a look at it again with him and explain what you're doing? You need to make sure that you're joining in and being receptive. That's fantastic. Yeah, well done. Sit down. Good comments for your team. Okay, that's really good.
They sit there for 5 minutes doing absolutely nothing. So what might he have said? They loved it, didn't they? So that he skipped along because he thought he'd done it. But only in Huntington would he skip along. And then when he got the house points, he jumped up twice because he was so delighted. Right? Then they sat down and did nothing. And I said to James, what could you have said? And we got, in the end, at the end of our coaching, he said, what I might have said is, you must have worked really hard at getting that one right, because it's very difficult. Here's an even more difficult one. If you work even harder at that one, I'm sure you can do that one too. And then you'd have seen them for the next 5 minutes actually challenge their maths skills, rather than sit there wallowing in self-congratulatory whatever, and getting their planner out ready for house points. So I think it's creating the culture in school. It's absolutely about the head teacher creating the culture in school, where that kind of dialogue with the head, right, is the norm. I had a maths teacher the other day who's the NSCWT regional treasurer, and he's the NSCWT rep. He dumped his, he did a dirt lesson, a designated improvement and reflection time, dedicated improvement and reflection time, did it in groups. It was chaos. It was a really bad lesson. He dumped it in my folder, came along, he'd done 2 pages on his iPad, a screen, an analysis of it, and I sat down with him and we talked about how he might have done it, and did he need to do that group work at all? Would it have been better sitting in rows, doing it on their own? And so you've got someone who's the leader of the NSCWT talking about video lessons with me and how to improve his practice, right? Not about some big row about filming, actually engaging in the filming and engaging in improving practice at the margins. You only do that if the leader of the school is engaged in creating a culture where that's acceptable, and also where the leader of the school knows what he or she is talking about practice. Only do that, I think. So, we've lost it completely now. Just a second. We're nearly finished, aren't we?